The galaxy had always been a complicated place, full of different species with their own goals, fears, and ambitions. For centuries, humanity was seen as an outsider, a newcomer trying to find its footing among civilizations that had existed long before. Earth's first starship left the solar system. Humans were clever, determined, and resourceful, but they were also unpredictable. Too many alien races, this made them both fascinating and dangerous. On a cold day in the distant reaches of space, aboard a massive orbital station orbiting Vega, Prime, representatives from dozens of alien species gathered for an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. The Council was the governing body of the known galaxy, responsible for maintaining peace and order among its members. How did they know? One was calm. The room buzzed with tension as delegates whispered urgently to one another, their voices overlapping into a chaotic hum. At the center of it all was a single transmission from Earth that had thrown everything into chaos. Humans had severed all diplomatic ties with the Galactic Council. Daniel Carter stood silently at the edge of the chamber. Crossed over his chest, he was one of Earth's most respected ambassadors, known for his sharp mind and quiet confidence. Today, however, he felt out of place. Normally, he would have been speaking on behalf of humanity, defending their actions, or negotiating terms. But not this time. This time Earth had spoken for itself, and there was nothing left to negotiate. Daniel wasn't here to argue. He was here because the Council demanded answers. And yet, as he looked around the room at the faces of the assembled delegates, he couldn't help but feel uneasy. Across the table sat Zarian, a Xylothean diplomat whose crystalline form shimmered faintly under the artificial lights. Her people were traders and negotiators, skilled at finding common ground even in the most difficult situations. Beside her was Kale, a reptilian Vorthok, whose scales gleamed like polished metal. His slit-pupil eyes darted back and forth, scanning the room with predatory intensity. Both of them and everyone else were waiting for someone to break the silence. Finally, the council chair, a towering insectoid named Arathis, raised a clawed hand to call for order. Enough, his voice boomed, cutting through the noise. We must address this matter immediately. Ambassador Carter, explain yourselves. Daniel took a deep breath and stepped forward. Earth has made its position clear, he said, his tone measured but firm. We will no longer participate in the Galactic Council. Our decision is final. The room erupted into chaos once again. Delegates shouted questions and accusations, their voices rising in anger and disbelief. Why would humanity do such a thing? What did they hope to gain? Was this some kind of trick? Daniel didn't flinch. He had expected this reaction, and he knew better than to try to reason with them now. They weren't ready to listen, not yet. Back on Earth, Rachel Monroe watched the Council's reaction through intercepted transmissions. She was a strategist working closely with the United Nations Space Command UNSC, and she had played a key role in crafting the message sent to the Council. She sat in her office overlooking the sprawling cityscape of New York. She replayed the recording of Daniel's speech in her mind. It was short, direct, and unapologetic. Exactly what humanity needed right now. Rachel leaned back in her chair, staring out the window at the horizon. The decision to cut off diplomacy hadn't been easy. Decades of frustration had led to this moment. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council decades ago, hoping to learn from more advanced civilizations and contribute to the greater good. Instead, they had been treated as second-class citizens, exploited for their resources, and dismissed as inferior. Broken promises, unfair trade agreements, and thinly veiled contempt had worn down Earth's patience. Now, under the leadership of President Alan Hayes, humanity was taking a stand. But cutting ties with the Council wasn't just about pride. Something much bigger was at play. Rachel glanced at the glowing screen on her desk, where a classified report blinked softly. In recent months, scientists had uncovered something extraordinary, a discovery that could change everything. Humanity wasn't just walking away from the Council. They were preparing for something far greater, thousands of miles away. In a secure facility buried deep beneath the Arctic ice, Dr. Emily Grant worked tirelessly alongside her team of researchers. Their discovery, an ancient artifact found during A routine mining operation on Mars had shaken the scientific community to its core. The object was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. It pulsed faintly with energy, emitting signals that defied understanding. It wasn't just alien. It was ancient, older than any known civilization, and it seemed to respond only to human touch. Emily adjusted her glasses as she studied the artifact. Suspended in a containment field at the center of the lab, the surface shimmered with an otherworldly glow, shifting colors and patterns that seemed almost alive. "It's not just a machine," she muttered to herself. "It's something else." Her assistant, a young engineer named Jake, nodded in agreement. "Whatever it is, it's way beyond us." "Do you think the council knows about it?" Emily shook her head. "If they did, they'd already be knocking down our door. Well, this is ours for now, at least." Meanwhile, aboard a cloaked reconnaissance vessel patrolling near Neptune, Captain Lucas Bennett monitored alien activity with growing concern. His ship was part of a small fleet tasked with keeping watch over Earth's borders. So far, the Council hadn't made any overt moves, but Lucas knew it was only a matter of time. If the aliens decided to retaliate, humanity would need every advantage it could get. Lucas tapped a finger against the control panel, his brow furrowed in thought. "They're panicking," he said aloud, though no one else was in the room. "That's good. Let them panic. Gives us time to prepare." As the hours passed, news of Earth's decision spread across the galaxy. Some species saw it as an act of defiance, a challenge to the established order. Others viewed it as reckless arrogance, a sign that humanity was too immature to handle its place among the stars. But amidst the outrage and speculation, one question lingered in everyone's minds. What was humanity planning next? For Rachel Monroe, the answer was clear. Humanity was done playing by the rules of others. They were carving their own path, forging a future on their own terms. Whether the rest of the galaxy liked it or not, humanity was here to stand. They weren't going anywhere. As night fell over Earth, Rachel gazed up at the stars through her office window. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of the Council, lay endless possibilities. Humanity had taken the first step toward claiming its destiny. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but Rachel knew one thing for certain. Humanity was ready to face whatever came next. As the initial shock of humanity's decision began to settle, whispers and rumors spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Galactic Council was in turmoil, its members divided over what to do next. Some believed Earth was preparing for war, stockpiling weapons and fortifying its defenses. Others speculated that humanity had discovered something so powerful it could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. But no one, neither the Council nor Earth's own. Citizens knew the full truth in a secure facility buried deep beneath the Arctic ice. Dr. Emily Grant worked tirelessly alongside her team of scientists. Their discovery an ancient artifact found on Mars had changed everything. It wasn't just a relic, it was alive, or at least part of something much larger. The object pulsed faintly with energy, emitting signals that defied understanding, and it seemed to respond only to humans. Rachel Monroe arrived at the facility late one evening, her breath fogging in the frigid air as she stepped out of a transport shuttle. She had been summoned by President Alan Hayes himself to assess the situation. As she entered the lab, she saw Emily standing near the containment field where the artifact floated, suspended in midair. Its surface shimmered with an otherworldly glow, shifting colors and patterns that seemed almost hypnotic. "What's the status?" Rachel asked, pulling her coat tighter around her. Emily turned to face her, her expression serious. "Made progress," she said, "but it's not enough. This thing, it's communicating, but we don't know how to interpret it yet." Rachel nodded, stepping closer to the artifact. "If this is what I think it is," she said, her voice low, "then we're sitting on a game changer." Emily sighed. "That's the problem. It's not just a weapon or a tool. It's something else entirely. And if we're not careful, it could be dangerous." Rachel frowned. "Dangerous how?" Emily hesitated before answering. "We don't fully understand it yet. But based on the data we've collected, activating it could have consequences, big ones. For us, for the galaxy, maybe even for the artifact itself." Rachel stared at the glowing object, her mind racing. Humanity had always dreamed of finding proof that they weren't alone in the universe. Now they had something far greater. A connection to something ancient, something beyond comprehension. But with great discoveries came great risks. If the Council or anyone else found out about this, it could spark a galactic conflict unlike anything the universe had ever seen. Meanwhile, aboard a cloaked reconnaissance vessel patrolling near Neptune, Captain Lucas Bennett monitored alien activity with growing unease. His ship was equipped with advanced sensors capable of detecting even the slightest movement in the surrounding space. So far, the Council hadn't made any overt moves, but Lucas knew it was only a matter of time. If the aliens decided to retaliate, humanity would need every advantage it could get. Lucas tapped a finger against the control panel, his brow furrowed in thought. "They're scared," he muttered to himself. "Good, let them stay scared. Gives us time to prepare." His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden alert flashing on the screen. A fleet of ships, dozens of them, was approaching from the outer rim of the solar system. They weren't flying openly, but their movements betrayed their presence. Lucas narrowed his eyes, his instincts kicking in. "This isn't a coincidence," he said aloud. "Oh! They're testing us." He quickly relayed the information back to Earth, warning Rachel and the UNSC leadership of the potential threat. If the Council decided to act, humanity needed to be ready. Lucas ordered his crew to maintain their position, keeping a close eye on the approaching fleet. For now, all they could do was wait. Back on Earth, Rachel met with President Hayes in a secure underground bunker. The president was a tall, imposing man with sharp features and an unwavering gaze. He had led humanity through some of its darkest days, and he wasn't about to let the Council push them around now. "What do we know?" Hayes asked, his tone firm but calm. Rachel handed him a tablet displaying the latest intel. "The Council's getting nervous. Ships are moving toward our borders, but they haven't crossed into our territory yet. It's possible there." "Just gathering intelligence?" Hayes studied the data for a moment before looking up, and the artifact. Rachel hesitated. "It's complicated. You're making progress, but there's still a lot we don't understand. Activating it could give us an edge, but it's risky. You don't know what might happen." Hayes leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "Risk is part of the job," he said finally. "But we can't afford to make mistakes. Keep working on it. In the meantime, we need to send a message to the Council." "A message?" Rachel raised an eyebrow. "What kind of message?" "One that shows them we're serious," Hayes replied. "If they want to test us, fine. But they need to know we're not backing down." Rachel nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Humanity had already taken a bold step by severing ties with the Council. Now they needed to prove they meant business. At the same time, aboard the orbital station orbiting Vega Prime, tensions among the Council members continued to rise. Zaran, the Xylothean diplomat, argued for restraint, urging her fellow delegates to avoid provoking humanity further. "Humans are unpredictable," she warned. "Attacking them now could lead to disaster." Kale, the reptilian Vorthok, dismissed her concerns with a flick of his tail. "They're cornered animals," he hissed. "We strike quickly, decisively, before they have a chance to act." But not everyone agreed with Kale's aggressive stance. A shadowy figure named Voreth, ambassador of the enigmatic Solari Collective, proposed a different approach. "Perhaps we've underestimated them," he suggested, his voice smooth and measured. "If they've truly uncovered something extraordinary, it may be wiser to ally ourselves rather than destroy them outright." The Council debated fiercely, their voices rising in anger and frustration. Finally, a compromise was reached. To Representatives Zarin and Voreth would be sent to Earth to negotiate privately. If diplomacy failed, then the Council would consider more drastic measures as Zarin and Voreth prepared for their journey. Whispers of betrayal rippled through the Council chambers. Not everyone believed diplomacy was the answer. Some factions, particularly those aligned with Kale, viewed the mission as a waste of time. They wanted action, not words. Unbeknownst to the Council, Vorath had his own agenda. The Solari Collective had long sought to uncover the secrets of the universe and the artifact on Earth was too valuable to ignore. If humanity refused to share, Vorath was prepared to take what he wanted by any means necessary. As the Council's envoys boarded their shuttle and set course for Earth, humanity braced itself for what was to come. The artifact pulsed softly. In its containment field, its signals growing stronger with each passing day. Whatever it was, whatever it represented, it held the key to humanity's future, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy itself. For now, the lines had been drawn. The Council was coming, and humanity was ready. But no, not the Council, not Vorath, not even Rachel or President Hayes could predict what would happen next. The stage was set, and the players were moving into position. All that remained was to see who would emerge victorious in the battle for control of the stars. When Zarian and Vorath arrived on Earth, they were met not with hostility but with silence. Their shuttle landed in a desolate stretch of desert outside New Mexico, where UNSC forces escorted them to a heavily guarded compound. The facility was unmarked, its outer walls made of dull gray concrete that blended into the barren landscape. Inside, however, it buzzed with activity. Soldiers patrolled the corridors. Scientists hurried between labs and officers whispered, "Urgently into comes devices ZAREE." Her crystalline form, shimmering faintly under the harsh fluorescent lights, took in her surroundings with quiet curiosity. She had always been fascinated by humanity's resilience, its creativity, its stubbornness. But now, standing in this fortress-like structure, she couldn't help but feel uneasy. Something about the atmosphere set her on edge. It wasn't fear exactly, but a sense that humanity was holding something back. Vorath, on the other hand, seemed unfazed. His sleek black armor reflected no light, and his face remained hidden behind a visor that obscured his features. He moved with purpose, his every step deliberate. Unlike Zarin, who sought understanding, Vorath had come for answers, and he intended to get them one way or another. They were led to a conference room deep within the facility, where Daniel Carter waited. He stood at the far end of the table, his arms crossed over his chest. His expression was unreadable, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. Rachel Monroe sat nearby, her posture relaxed but alert. She had been briefed on the councils. Envoys and knew their arrival could mean trouble. "You chose to come here despite our message," Daniel said, his voice calm but firm. "Why?" Zarian stepped forward, her tone measured. "Because we seek understanding, not conflict. Tell us why you severed ties." Before Daniel could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red warning lights flashed overhead, casting an eerie glow across the room. Chaos erupted as armed guards scrambled to contain whatever threat had triggered the security systems. Zaran and Vorath exchanged a glance, though neither spoke. Rachel leapt to her feet, her mind racing. "What's happening?" Zarian asked, her voice tinged with concern. "We don't know yet," Rachel replied. "Already heading for the door. Stay here. We'll handle it." But Vorath didn't listen. As soon as Rachel left the room, he slipped away, disappearing into the shadows. His movements were silent, almost ghost-like, as he navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the facility. He wasn't there to negotiate. He was there to gather intelligence. And if the rumors were true, if humanity had discovered something extraordinary, he needed to see it for himself. Meanwhile, Rachel rushed to the source of the disturbance. A team of engineers and soldiers had gathered near the containment lab, where the artifact was being studied. The air was thick with tension as technicians worked frantically to stabilize the situation. Emily Grant stood at the center of it all, her face pale but determined. "What happened?" Rachel demanded, pushing through the crowd. Emily pointed to the artifact, which pulsed erratically in its containment field. Its colors shifted wildly, faster than usual, and sparks of energy crackled around its surface. "It reacted to something," Emily explained. "We're not sure what triggered it, but it's destabilizing." Rachel's heart sank. If the artifact became unstable, the consequences could be catastrophic. "Can you shut it down?" Emily shook her head. "Not without risking permanent damage. We need to figure out what caused this first." As the team worked to stabilize the artifact, Rachel noticed movement out of the corner of her eye. Someone or something was watching them from the shadows. She turned sharply, her hand instinctively reaching for the sidearm holstered at her hip. But whoever it was had vanished. Back in the conference room, Daniel found himself alone with Zarian. The Xylothian diplomat studied him intently, her multifaceted eyes gleaming. "You humans are unpredictable," she said finally. "But I sense there's more to your decision than pride." Daniel hesitated. He didn't trust Zaranot completely, but she wasn't like the others. She genuinely wanted to understand. "It's not just about pride," he admitted. "For years, we've been treated as inferior, used as pawns in your games. We're done playing along." Zarin nodded slowly. "I can't deny that mistakes have been made. But cutting yourselves off won't solve anything. You'll isolate yourselves, make enemies of those who might otherwise be allies." "Not afraid of isolation," Daniel replied. "And we're not afraid of enemies. Humanity has survived worse." Before Zarian could respond, the door burst open, and Rachel re-entered the room. "We have a problem," she said. "Someone infiltrated the facility." Daniel's eyes widened. "Who?" "We don't know yet," Rachel said, "but they're after the artifact." Zarian frowned. "This wasn't part of our mission. We came here in good faith." "I hope so," Rachel said, her tone sharp. "Because if this is some kind of trick, you'll regret it." Deep within the facility, Vorath moved swiftly, his visor scanning the environment for signs of resistance. He had located the artifact's position and was closing in. Along the way, he encountered several security checkpoints, but his advanced suit allowed him to bypass them without detection. The Solari Collective had prepared him well for this moment. As he approached the containment lab, he paused to observe the scene. Scientists worked feverishly to stabilize the artifact, their faces etched with worry. Guards patrolled the perimeter, their weapons drawn. Vorath smirked beneath his visor. Humanity's greatest discovery was within reach, and they didn't even realize how vulnerable they were. He activated a device on his wrist, emitting a low-frequency pulse designed to disrupt electronic systems. Alarms sounded again as cameras and sensors went offline, plunging the area into temporary chaos. Taking advantage of the confusion, Vorath slipped past the guards and entered the lab. Emily spotted him immediately. "Who are you?" she demanded. Stepping forward, "You're not authorized to be here?" Vorath ignored her, focusing instead on the artifact. He extended a gloved hand toward it, his fingers brushing against its glowing surface. Instantly, the object flared brighter, its energy surging uncontrollably. Emily shouted a warning, but it was too late. Vorath pulled his hand back, clutching a small data chip embedded with the information he had extracted. Guards burst into the room moments later. Their weapons trained on Vorath, but he was ready. Activating a cloaking device, he vanished from sight, leaving behind only the faint hum of displaced air. By the time Rachel and Daniel arrived at the lab, the damage had already been done. The artifact was stable for now, but the breach had exposed humanity's greatest secret. Vorath had escaped, taking with him critical information about the artifact's capabilities. "This changes everything," Rachel said, her voice tight. With frustration, "If the Council knows what we have, they'll stop at nothing to take it." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then we fight, let them come." Rachel turned to Emily. "How much did he get?" Emily hesitated before answering. "Enough to raise questions, but not enough to replicate it. For now, we still have the advantage." Rachel nodded, though her expression remained grim. Humanity had taken a bold step by severing ties with the Council. Now, they would need to defend their choice and their discovery at all costs. As the facility returned to a tense calm, Zareen watched silently from the sidelines. She had seen glimpses of humanity's potential during her brief visit, but she also sensed the danger brewing beneath the surface. Whatever the future held, one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. The infiltration of the Arctic facility sent shockwaves through humanity's leadership. Rachel Monroe paced back and forth in a secure briefing room, her mind racing as she tried to piece together what had happened. Vorath's theft of data from the artifact was bad enough, but the implications were far worse. If the Council or worse, the Silari Collective figured out how to use the information, Humanity's advantage would vanish. And with tensions already high, wouldn't take much to spark a full-blown conflict. President Alan Hayes sat at the head of the table, his expression grim. Around him, advisors and military leaders whispered urgently, their voices overlapping in a chaotic hum. "We need options," Hayes said finally, his voice cutting through the noise. "What are we dealing with here?" Rachel stepped forward, her hands resting on the edge of the table. Vorath took a sample of the artifact's signal patterns. "It's not enough to replicate the object itself, but it gives them clues. They'll analyze it, try to reverse engineer it. We don't know how long we have before they figure something out." Hayes leaned back in his chair, his jaw tightening. "Then we move first. Show them we're not bluffing." One of the military officers, a grizzled man named General Marcus Hale, nodded in agreement. "Sir, if I may, we've been preparing for this. Our fleets are ready, our defenses are strong. If the Council wants a fight, we'll give them one." Rachel shook her head. "It's not that simple. This isn't just about military strength. The artifact changes everything. If we can unlock its full potential, we might not need to fight at all." Hayes raised an eyebrow. "You think it's worth the risk? Activating it could destabilize entire star systems." "It's a risk we have to take," Rachel replied firmly. "If we play it safe, we lose. If we act decisively, we might just win." Meanwhile, aboard the orbital station orbiting Vega Prime, the Council convened once again. Zaran stood before the assembly, her crystalline form shimmering faintly under the artificial lights. She recounted her visit to Earth, describing the humans' determination and the mysterious artifact they were studying. "They're hiding something," she concluded. "Something powerful, but they're also scared. Scared of us, and scared of what they've found." Kale, the reptilian Vorthok, hissed in frustration. "Scared or not, they're dangerous. We should strike now, while we still can." Vorith, standing quietly in the shadows, finally spoke. "Patience," he said, his voice smooth and measured. "We don't fully understand what they've discovered. Attacking blindly could be disastrous." Zarian turned to face him. "And yet you infiltrated their facility. What did you find?" Vorath hesitated before answering. "Enough to confirm our suspicions. The artifact is ancient, possibly tied to a network of some kind. Its energy signature suggests it's capable of extraordinary things." The Council erupted into chaos once again, each species arguing over the best course of action. Some called for immediate retaliation, others urged caution. In the end, a compromise was reached. The Council would prepare for war while continuing to gather intelligence. If diplomacy failed, they would respond with force. Back on Earth, Emily Grant worked tirelessly in the lab, trying to stabilize the artifact after Voreth's intrusion. Her team monitored its energy output closely, wary of another surge. "It's like it's alive," Jake muttered, staring at the glowing object, reacting to everything around it. Emily nodded absently. "Maybe it is. Or maybe it's part of something bigger. Something we can't even imagine." Rachel entered the lab, her expression tense. "Any progress?" Emily sighed. "We've managed to contain the energy spikes, but it's still unpredictable. It's trying to activate it without understanding it fully, it's risky." "That's why we're here," Rachel said. "To take risks. Time's running out, Emily. If we don't figure this out soon, the Council will make their move." Emily hesitated before responding. "There's one thing we haven't tried yet. A direct interface. Human touch seems to resonate with it more than anything else. Maybe someone needs to connect with it directly." Rachel frowned. "Connect how?" "Neuralink," Emily explained. "Using a brainwave scanner, we could synchronize with its signals. It might give us insight into what it really is and what it's capable of." Rachel considered the idea, weighing the risks. "Who would do it?" Emily glanced at Jake, then back at Rachel. "I'll do it. I'm the lead scientist. It's my responsibility." Rachel shook her head. "No, you're too important." "If something goes wrong, I'll do it," a voice interrupted. Daniel Carter stepped into the lab, his expression resolute. "I've interfaced with alien tech before. If anyone can handle it, it's me." Rachel opened her mouth to protest, but Daniel cut her off. This isn't up for debate. We need answers, and we need them now. Preparations for the neural link began immediately. The lab was reconfigured to accommodate the procedure, with monitors and safety protocols put in place. Daniel sat in a chair positioned near the artifact, electrodes attached to his temples. Emily and her team worked quickly, ensuring everything was ready. "Remember," Emily said, her tone serious, "if anything feels wrong, pull out immediately. We don't know what this thing is capable of." Daniel nodded. "Understood." As the process began, the artifact's glow intensified, its colors shifting rapidly. Daniel closed his eyes, focusing on the connection. At first, there was nothing but statica, chaotic jumble of signals and sensations. Then slowly, images began to form in his mind. Vast landscapes, alien cities, stars collapsing into black holes. He saw civilizations rising and falling, their echoes lingering in the void. But there was more. A presence and intelligence reached out to him, probing his thoughts. It wasn't hostile, but it wasn't friendly either. Simply existed. Ancient, timeless, incomprehensible. Daniel gasped, his body jerking involuntarily. "Showing me something," he managed to say. "A network, portals, across the galaxy." Emily watched the monitors closely, her brow furrowed. "His brain activity is spiking. We need to bring him out." "No," Daniel shouted, his voice strained. "Wait, there's more." The artifact flared brighter, its energy surging. Alarms blared as the containment field destabilized. "Shut it down," Emily ordered, rushing to disconnect the interface. But it was too late. The artifact pulsed once more, sending a wave of energy rippling through the lab. Lights flickered, equipment shorted out, and everyone was thrown to the ground. When the chaos subsided, the artifact was dark, its glow extinguished. Daniel slumped in the chair, unconscious but alive. Emily checked his vitals, relief washing over her. "He's okay," she said, "but the artifact, it's dormant." Rachel entered the lab, her face pale with worry. "What happened?" Emily shook her head. "I don't know. But whatever. It showed him. It must have been important." Hours later, Daniel woke up in the medical bay. His head throbbed, and his thoughts were foggy, but the images from the artifact lingered vividly in his mind. Rachel sat beside him, her expression unreadable. "What did you see?" she asked softly. Daniel took a deep breath. "Portals, network spanning the galaxy. Instantaneous travel between star systems. But there's a catch: it requires immense energy, and if misused, it could destroy entire sectors of space." Rachel's eyes widened. "That's incredible and terrifying."
Ow.
Daniel nodded. "We have the power to reshape the galaxy, but also to destroy it. The question is, what do we do with it?" Rachel stood, her mind racing. Humanity now held the key to the galaxy's future. But with great power came great responsibility. And danger. If the Council found out about the network, they would stop at nothing to seize control. For now, the secret was safe. But for how long? As Rachel left the medical bay, she glanced out a nearby window at the stars twinkling in the night sky. Somewhere out there, the Council was watching, waiting. Humanity had taken a bold step by severing ties. Now, they would need to decide how. To wield the power they had uncovered and whether they were ready to face the consequences. The final confrontation came sooner than anyone expected. The Council, fueled by Vorith's stolen data and growing paranoia about humanity's intentions, launched a preemptive strike. Fleets of alien warships descended upon Earth's solar system, their engines lighting up the darkness like fiery comets. Humanity had known this day might come, but nothing could fully prepare them for the scale of the attack. Rachel Monroe stood in the command center of the United Nations, UNSC headquarters. Her eyes glued to the massive holographic display showing the positions of both human and alien forces. The enemy ships were spread out, forming a blockade around Earth's borders. Their message was clear: surrender or face annihilation. But humanity wasn't about to back down. President Alan Hayes entered the room, his expression calm despite the chaos swirling around him. "Status report," he said, his voice steady. Rachel turned to face him. "Their main fleet is holding position near Neptune. Smaller squadrons are probing our defenses, testing weaknesses. So far, we've managed to hold them off." Hayes nodded. "Good. Keep them busy. We need more time." "Time for what?" General Marcus Hale asked, stepping forward. "If they break through, we won't last long." Rachel glanced at Daniel Carter, who stood nearby. He still looked pale from his encounter with the artifact, but his resolve hadn't wavered. "We're activating the network," she said firmly. Hale frowned. "Are you sure that's wise?" "We don't know what it'll do. We don't have a choice," Rachel replied. "If we sit here and wait for them to overwhelm us, we're finished. This is our only chance." Hayes studied her for a moment before nodding. "Do it." Deep beneath the Arctic ice, Emily Grant and her team worked feverishly to activate the artifact's network. The process was delicate, requiring precise calibration of the energy signals. Any mistake could destabilize the entire system, potentially causing catastrophic damage. Emily adjusted dials on the control panel, her hands trembling slightly. "Energy levels are rising," she said. "We're almost there." Jake, standing beside her, kept an eye on the monitors. "Portals are stabilizing. 3, 4, 5 connections established." Daniel watched silently, his mind replaying the visions he'd seen during the Neuralink. The network stretched across the galaxy, connecting distant star systems through ancient portals. If they succeeded, humanity would gain the ability to outmaneuver the Council's force, isn't turn the tide of the battle. But success wasn't guaranteed. The artifact pulsed erratically, its glow flickering as if struggling under the strain. Emily wiped sweat from her brow, her focus unbroken. "Hold steady," she muttered. "Just a little longer." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. A squadron of alien fighters had breached Earth's outer defenses and was heading straight for the Arctic base. Rachel's voice crackled. "Over the comm system? Emily, we've got incoming. You need to finish this now." "I'm trying." Emily snapped, her fingers flying across the controls. "One more connection? Almost there." The ground shook as explosions rocked the surface above. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the lights flickered ominously. Wait. Jake grabbed a fire extinguisher to put out a small blaze caused by an overloaded console. "Hurry up!" he shouted. With one final adjustment, Emily slammed her hand down on the activation switch. The artifact flared brightly, its energy surging through the containment field. For a moment, everything went silent. Then, with a deafening roar, the network came online. Across the galaxy, ancient portals opened, shimmering like liquid silver. Against the blackness of space, ships stationed near key locations, Earth, Mars, Jupiter's moons were suddenly transported to strategic points within the enemy fleet. Humanity's forces appeared behind the Council's lines, catching them completely off guard in the command center. Rachel watched the holographic display light up with new icons, representing human ships now positioned throughout the battlefield. "It worked," she whispered, relief washing over her. "They're inside their perimeter." Hayes leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Now we hit them hard." Orders flew across communication channels as Earth's fleets coordinated their attacks. Fighters darted between enemy ships, launching precision strikes while larger vessels unleashed barrages of missiles and plasma cannons. Council's blockade crumbled under the unexpected assault, their neatly organized formations dissolving into chaos. Zargan, observing the battle from the safety of the orbital station, felt a pang of unease. Humanity had proven itself far more resourceful than anyone anticipated. "This changes everything," she murmured to herself. Kale, however, was furious. "They've tricked us." He snarled, slamming a clawed fist against the table. "Retreat is not an option. We crush them now." Forth remained silent, his visor reflecting the flashes of explosions visible through the station's windows. His plan had failed, or so it seemed. The humans had turned the tables, using the artifact's power to their advantage. But Vorath knew better than to underestimate them. They'd only scratched the surface of the artifact's potential. There was still much to learn, and much to fear. As the battle raged on, Captain Lucas Bennett led his squadron through the newly opened portals emerging behind enemy lines. The ship's weapons fired relentlessly, targeting critical points on the alien vessels. "Keep pushing," he ordered his crew. "Don't let them regroup." The aliens fought back fiercely, their superior technology giving them an edge in close combat. But humanity's unpredictability and sheer determination tipped the scales in their favor. Wave after wave of Council ships retreated, their ranks broken. Back on Earth, President Hayes addressed the galaxy via a live broadcast. Standing in front of a backdrop of stars, he spoke with unwavering confidence. "For too long, humanity has been treated as inferior, as expendable. Today we take our place among the stars, not as subjects, but as equals. Join us, and together we can forge a brighter future. Oppose us, and face the consequences." His words echoed across the galaxy, reaching every corner of known space. Some species, inspired by humanity's boldness, began to question their allegiance. To the Council, others, including the Solari Collective, vowed revenge. The Council fractured further, its members divided over how to respond. When the dust settled, humanity emerged victorious, but not without cost. The Arctic facility had sustained heavy damage, and countless lives had been lost in the battle. Yet despite the losses, hope burned brighter than ever. Humanity had proven itself, capable of standing toe-to-toe with the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Rachel stood outside the damaged facility, gazing up at the night sky. The stars seemed closer now, their light carrying the promise of endless possibilities. She thought about the artifact, its secrets still waiting to be uncovered. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity was ready to face them head-on nearby. Daniel approached her, his expression thoughtful. "What happens next?" he asked. Rachel smiled faintly. "We keep moving forward. That's what we do." And somewhere, in the vast expanse of space, the artifact pulsed softly. Its glow dim but steady. Its purpose was far from fulfilled, and its story was far from over. The aftermath of the battle left the galaxy in a state of uneasy calm. Humanity had emerged victorious, but the cost was high. Cities on Earth lay in ruins from orbital bombardments, and the Arctic facility, once a beacon of hope, was now a crumbling shell of its former self. Yet, despite the scars, humanity stood stronger than ever. The activation of the artifacts network had proven to be a turning point, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. Rachel Monroe walked through the damaged corridors of the Arctic base, her boots crunching against broken glass and debris. The air smelled of smoke and melted metal, but she barely noticed. Her mind was focused on what came next. The Council's fleet had been pushed back, but they weren't defeated. Retaliation was inevitable, and humanity needed to prepare for whatever came next in the makeshift command center. Emily Grant and her team worked tirelessly to repair the artifact's systems. Its glow had dimmed significantly after the battle, and its energy levels were unstable. "It's like it's exhausted," Emily muttered, running diagnostics on her tablet. "We pushed it too far." Daniel Carter stood nearby, watching the scientists work. "Can we use it again if they attack?" Emily hesitated before answering. "Maybe, but not without risking permanent damage. If we lose control of the network, it could collapse entirely and take parts of the galaxy with it." Rachel nodded grimly. "Then we need to make sure that doesn't happen. Keep working on stabilizing it. We'll figure out the rest later." Meanwhile, aboard the orbital station orbiting Vega Prime, the Galactic Council convened once again. The chamber was tense, the usual decorum replaced by anger and frustration. Kale, the reptilian Vorthok, slammed his fist against the table. "This is unacceptable. Those humans have humiliated us." Zarian tried to calm him down, her crystalline form shimmering faintly under the artificial lights. "Attacking them again won't solve anything. They've proven they're capable of defending themselves. Perhaps it's time to reconsider our approach." Vorath remained silent, his visor reflecting the chaos around him. He knew better than anyone how dangerous humanity had become. The artifact's power was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, and Vorath couldn't help but wonder if the Solari Collective had underestimated its potential or humanity's resolve. Finally, Arathis, the towering insectoid chair of the council, raised a clawed hand to silence the room. Enough. Boomed. We cannot afford further division. Humanity has changed the rules of the game. We must adapt or perish. After hours of heated debate, the council reached a decision. Zarin and several other diplomats would reach out to Earth once more, this time offering not hostility, but cooperation. It was a risky move, but one born of necessity. If humanity refused, the council would have no choice but to escalate the conflict. For now, diplomacy was their only option. Back on Earth, Rachel received word of the council's latest proposal. She sat in a secure briefing room with President Hayes and General Hale, reviewing the details. They want peace talks? Hale asked incredulously. After everything they've done? Hayes leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. They're scared. We showed them we're not afraid to fight back, and that we have something they can't match. This isn't about friendship. It's about survival. Rachel nodded. They're trying to buy time. Figure out how to counter the artifacts. Power, then. Let them try, Hayes said firmly. But we'll meet with them. On our terms. The meeting was scheduled to take place aboard a neutral space station near Saturn's rings. Humanity agreed to send a delegation led by Daniel Carter, with Rachel Monroe acting as chief strategist. As their ship approached the station, Daniel couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The last time he'd faced the council, it had ended in chaos. This time, he wasn't sure what to expect. When they arrived, Zarin greeted them warmly, her demeanor calm and respectful. "Thank you for coming," she said. "We wish to avoid further bloodshed for all our sakes." Daniel nodded cautiously. "We're listening." Inside the conference room, the negotiations began. The council proposed a temporary truce, during which both sides would refrain from hostile actions. In exchange, they requested access to the artifact's technology, to replicate it. They claimed but to study it and ensure its safe use. Rachel listened carefully, her expression unreadable. When it was her turn to speak, she leaned forward, her tone firm. "The artifact belongs to humanity. We discovered it, and we'll decide how to use it. If you want peace, you'll respect that." Kale bristled at her words, but Zarin intervened. Before he could respond, "We understand your position," she said diplomatically. "But the artifact's power affects the entire galaxy. If misused, it could endanger us all." Rachel met her gaze evenly. "And help us stabilize it. Share your knowledge, and we'll share ours. But make no mistake, the artifact stays with us." After hours of tense discussions, a fragile agreement was reached. The council would provide technical assistance to help stabilize the artifact's energy output, while humanity promised not to expand the network until further research was conducted. Both sides knew the truce was temporary, but for now, it was enough. As the delegations parted ways, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that the council's offer was too convenient. She voiced her concerns to Daniel as they prepared to return to Earth. "They're stalling," she said. "Buying time to figure out how to counter us?" Daniel nodded. "Probably. But it gives us time too. It's time to learn more about the artifact and how to protect ourselves." Back at the Arctic facility, Emily and her team continued their work, analyzing the data collected during the battle. "Slow any text or prompts you'd like me to complete or revise?"